Okay, so today we're going to discuss the chapter 12. The chapter 12 is all about the biodiversity and a healthy society. So this topic will speak about the importance of the conservation of our biodiversity and the potential effect of the destruction of the biodiversity in the life of the human beings. So basically, this try to speak about the biodiversity. What are we going to discuss here? Number one, the biodiversity is a broad topic here. We try to speak about number one. We are made up of the different organisms here, from small to large organisms of the different species. We try to live together by the process of we try to interact with one another for their survival. Second one, they try to live in a habitat here which is abundant habitat, where they try to provide necessary requirement for the growth and the survival of the different species within an ecosystem. Okay, the third one, each of these different living organism here, different species or different species would have their unique metabolic growth and reproductive pattern. And number four, biodiversity is very essential for our human life. Basically, try to provide us with the food and even the medicine. Okay, when speak about the biodiversity, so simply it means here the variability. Biodiversity is your biological diversity. So pag sinabing diversity, that's diverse. So that's variability. So when speak about here the variability, that could be in the form of intra-species or interspecies. And speak about here the intra-species here, like that's every species here, they have the different, or they have the variability, or they are diverse. Like for example, human being, so that's intra-species. Human to human, that's intra-species. So variability here with the intra-species, like in the case of the human, speak about here the variety or diverse in terms of your, for example, difference in your skin color. We are diverse, or there's a variability because of the difference in your color of your skin, your eyes, or even your hair. When speak about naman interspecies, that's a variability that we're talking about. If we try to differentiate between like human versus your animals versus your plants, so simply they are, of course, they are highly different talaga when in terms of that. Let's try to differentiate between your interspecies. Okay, so biodiversity speaks about here the species of the organisms, including their ecosystem. So we speak about the ecosystem here. So they speak about here the multitude of the organisms here that try to live in a particular area at all levels. And the relationship here, they try to live with one another here in the form of interdependence or interrelationships, where they try to depend on one another for their survival or even for their protections. They try to live in their habitat or in an ecosystem that may be in the form of a natural habitat or artificial habitat. Speak about the natural habitat here. So those are the ecosystem where that one is being, so those are the ecosystem or area where that one is not yet touched by a human and not yet exploited. So like for example, your natural habitat or ecosystem could be in the form of your forest or jungle, for example. Artificial habitat could also be made here primarily by humans, so that may be in the form of your aquarium, terrarium, or even your zoo. So we're in to try to build that one, where try to put on the different species on that to become here the artificial habitat. So the biodiversity try to provide us with the most important thing here. So try to provide us number one with the food. Second one provides us as a source of our energy. And also provides us with access here to clean air, to clean water, or even access to different services, including the water purification, soil fertility, pest control, waste disposal, and could also be through your aesthetic pleasure. So pag sinabing aesthetic pleasure, so biodiversity provides us with the pleasure, like you become happy, like if you are in nature, for example. So there are some people that they find happiness when they try to be on going out places, like in different natural resources. So this also provides here one of the importance of your biodiversity. Okay, now we have here the different types or classification of your biodiversity. The first one, we have the genetic biodiversity. So when speak about the genetic biodiversity, it pertains here to your genes or the different genetic makeup. So each of the different species of the organisms here are primarily diverse in terms of their genetic compositions. So when speak about the genes, so this is a segments of the long DNA. It's a long DNA segments. Primarily, we try to code here for particular product. Your DNA is actually the one trying to contain here the genetic information by the process of transcription and eventually translation. You produce your particular products. They try to code here, for example, like products like what? Like your phenotypic characteristics. Like for example, your hair color, your traits, and all that one is being dictated because of your genes. Okay, so the significance of your genetic diversity here, so they serve here providing us for different organisms with their adaptive potential. So basically what determines here the adaptations and their ability here to adapt to the environment is because of their genetic makeup. What dictates what type of the organism here is because of their genetic makeup. Another one, through your genetic makeup here or your genes, you try to classify the organisms according to their breeds. Like mga dog natin, di ba, they have different breeds because they have a different genetic makeup. Although they belong to the same na species or dog. Variety, for example, in the case of your plants, diba? So you have different varieties, even they belong to the same na plant family, but because of different genetic makeup, they have the different variety. Or even the microorganisms like your bacteria or even your viruses, they have the subspecies for that, and because of the genetic makeup. And we could perform here genetic studies like your molecular studies like your PCR. That's what we are that's what we are using as confirmatory test, for example, for the COVID-19. So it's because of the genetic makeup. Because that one, we consider the PCR polymerase chain reaction here as the specific test, confirmatory test for the COVID-19 because again, the COVID-19 would have a different genetic makeup compared to your other organisms. Therefore, by testing that one, it becomes very specific tests. Second type of your biodiversity, we have here the species biodiversity. So the species variability, the variability with that could be in the form of your species richness, or you have the term species rich. Could also have here the species unevenness. So when we speak about the species here, so we define species here as a group of interbreeding organism here with the similar characteristics. So when we speak about the species diversity, could have here, we could measure that one in terms of the species richness. So when speak about the species richness here, one ecosystem or one habitat, for example, here become species rich if that one is made up of the different species. Like for example, in a community, so you should have here the human being, plus you should have the animals, you should have here different species of the plant. So if that one is only like your community, for example, is only made up of human being, there's no plant, there's no animals, I mean to say that one is not a species rich na, okay, na habitat. Another measure here would be the species evenness. So speak about the evenness here pertains um, to the your habitat has been inhabited here by the different species, but that different species should have an equal population size. For the measurement, we consider here the evenness as high or low. Kasi sinabing high, it become high here if that entire population or habitat, for example, is made up different species, but their number are all equal. Like for example, in a community, like for example, you have the human being, you have here 20 human being, 20 plant, 20 animals. So that's high na species evenness. But you will speak about the measurement here is low. For example, you have 20 na human, zero animals, zero plant, then is we consider it one as low because their population size is not equal for all the species. Another type of your biodiversity, we have here the ecological biodiversity, also called here the community biodiversity. So when Speak about ecological biodiversity here speaks about the ecosystem where the entire living organism here try to live. So ecosystem here is primarily the interrelationships here of the living organisms plus the abiotic factors. Abiotic factors here, those are the environmental factors. They are not a living organism, but they are environmental factors which try to affect the life and even the survival of your living organism found in particular ecosystem. So example of your abiotic factors, we have here your water, your air, your humidity, your temperature, pressure, even the pH. Okay, we classify here the ecosystem as either, okay, again, this pertains here to particular area as well as their interrelationships. So it's not just enough that you have the species, but of course here try to describe also here how each of the species here try to live interdependent with one another in order for them to survive. So we classify the ecosystem here, those ecosystem in the land or bodies of water or even in the land. So aquatic ecosystem here includes all living organisms and non-living organisms or the abiotic factors which you could find in the bodies of water. So ano makikita natin sa bodies of water? That's your aquatic ecosystem. So this bodies of water could be in the form of your fresh water. You have also here your estuarine, your marine, coastal, brackish water, or even your salt water. Another one, we have here the terrestrial ecosystem. So it pertains here to the habitat or the ecosystem found in the land. So that's we have here your grassland, traditional forest, is anything here on the land. What's in the land? Okay, what are the living organisms in the land? What are the factors which try to affect? Okay, those lives of the living organisms in the land, that speaks about your terrestrial ecosystem. So sometimes you could also encounter here the overlapping ecosystem between one region. So you call that one as your ecotone. Okay, then we have again here the importance of the biodiversity. Number one, the biodiversity here serves as our source of our food, clothing, shelter, and our medicine. Another one is to become the source of our different raw materials here for our industrial activities. Like for example, the raw materials here for building of your houses. So mga wood natin and all. Third one is also the source of your goods and different products, sources of your clean water and air. Okay, then we have here the challenges with our biodiversity. In order for us then to understand fully about the significance of our biodiversity, then we need also to consider here the two branches of science. We have the taxonomy and we have also here the ecology. When we speak about the ecology, is just a relationship here of the living organisms as to their environment where they try to live. And taxonomy, on the other hand, their hierarchical relationships. So among the challenges here with our biodiversity includes the following. Number one, biodiversity studies here that's being done. There are actually limited studies only done with our biodiversity. Much of that here as being the studies found done here regarding your biodiversity are more of the global arena more than our local settings. Second one, we have here the lack of site-specific data on the species composition of particular communities. Third one, studies also try to last year taxonomic precision. Fourth one, few taxonomies. Number five, insufficient biodiversity inventory and assessment. Okay, currently, as with the biodiversity study in our country, so there are only limited studies or researches that's being done with even like, for example, in our places. So when speak about the biodiversity study, you try to go to a piece of ecosystem, like for example, a mountain or forest, or try to speciate. When speak about species here, you try to identify each what are the flora, what are the fauna that is present on that particular area. You need to name them. So currently, wala masyadong gumagawa na ganyang study and most likely speciation here is being done by mga BS biology for the research. And that's what we are lacking as of today because of course the lack of the studies also provides us with incomplete data on what's going on with our biodiversity. Is there a new species has been identified this year compared with the previous one? Is there any new species added to the existing one? So all that one, we do not know because we don't have a study on that. Okay, then we have here the status of the biodiversity in our country. So lucky for our country because we are a tropical country and we're also here divided into different islands separated by bodies of water, providing us with rich flora and fauna. Okay, basically we consider our country here as biodiversity hotspot. They're trying to encourage here as our source of the attraction, as our natural resources for our to boost primarily our tourisms. But the problem with having close contact, for example, here with our nature, ecosystem, biodiversity, it become here, it try to pose here a threat to the environment, like in a form of exploitation or even abuse. Okay, the 2014 data provided us with information that there are 211 wild animals which are extinct and even 526 wild plants in our country. Okay, but of course, there always have a danger of extinction for those wild plants and animals. Okay, now we go to the threats here to our biodiversity. Okay, the potential threat here to biodiversity because of the human activities that try to have a negative impact on the destruction of our biodiversity. The first one, we have here the habitat destruction. To speak about the habitat destruction here is because of we're talking about the destruction of the habitat here of our flora and fauna because of the anthropogenic activities or human activities. Like what? We have here urbanization, we have also construction, we have also agricultural development with the use of your herbicide, pesticides, or even fertilizers. We try to destroy the habitat of our flora and fauna.